The Pilea Peperomioides, one of the most peculiar looking house plants, and I think it's super neat. Fun fact, actually a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, this plant was not even commercially available in the States. It was very readily available over in Europe, but was not really available. You had to sort of get cuttings from your friend who had one, or get one of these little pups like that from a friend that already had one. But anyway, let's learn how to take care of this Pilea Peperomioides, otherwise known as the friendship plant or the pancake plant or the UFO plant. There's lots of little different names, but in any case, Pilea Peperomioides will always be correct. Chinese money plant, I've heard it called that as well. Let's look at what this guy needs to thrive and be happy. Starting off with light, they're gonna want to be pretty close to a window. They want that bright light, okay? So any window except for a north-facing window is going to be sufficient. If it's going to be in a south window, I would back it off a couple of feet from that window. But other than that, it can be right up in the window, taking in as much light as you can give it. I think it's a good idea to rotate your plant regularly, maybe with every watering, turn it maybe like a half a turn or a quarter turn. And that's going to get you not only a plant that is growing straight up, for aesthetic purposes and health purposes, otherwise it might start leaning one way or the other, but it's really gonna help the pot fill out so that you have a nice symmetrical sort of shape, which I really enjoy about these plants, how they kind of just shoot off symmetrically, and if you look at it from the top, you have kind of a neat shape to it. Next, let's look at watering. In the spring and summer months, you can let this dry out, maybe a ½ inch or an inch into the soil. You'll notice that if you look at the stem, can you see the stem here? If you look at the stem closely, you'll notice that it is very thick, and it's actually it's like semi-succulent in nature. So it's holding on to a little bit of that water. Also, if you feel the foliage, it's sort of a waxy foliage, which helps the plant hold on to even more water. So when the sun is hitting it, it's kind of shielding it from drying out. Okay, so this plant is semi-succulent, so letting it dry out is better than keeping it wet all the time, because it has that sort of built-in defense system to drying out too much. So whenever you're wondering, should I water this plant or should I not water the plant, it's better to err on the side of let it dry out a little bit more. The fall and winter, you can let it dry out even more than that. You can let it dry out, a couple of inches into the soil, maybe 2-3 inches into the soil, and you should be fine. These are nice little feeding plants. They will grow quite vigorously. And one of the cool things about them actually, and I forgot to mention this, they are called the friendship plant for a reason, because they produce very readily like a lot of these little babies, and you can get these little babies off of the mother plant, pot them up in a new pot, and give them to friends. And it happens a lot. I mean, this plant right now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 babies coming off of it right now. So if I had 6 friends, which I don't, I could cut them off and root them in soil and, give them to my friends. Oh wait, there's number 7. There's a 7th one right there. So they produce very readily because they are a very vigorously growing plant. But anyway, you can fertilize them in the spring and summer months while this is their growing season. Just do, a water-soluble type fertilizer, very balanced one. You can do, 10-10-10, 15-15-15, 20-20-20, anything you like. Direct it as the package says to do. Dilute it quite a bit. And I do that about once a month, once every 3 weeks, somewhere around there. I'm not like super particular with it, but when I remember that it hasn't been done in a while, I give them a little shot of fertilizer. And this thing is growing like crazy, so that works for me. Try to repot this thing about every year as you need to. It will grow quite vigorously, like I've said. And so if you need to repot it every year, because the roots are coming out the bottom of the pot, give it a nice repotting. What I like to use is a good organic compost, about 50% of that, and 50% inorganic material such as stones or orchid bark or perlite. Any bit of that is going to do really well, especially when they're developing root systems. If you do decide to propagate this plant through a little cutting right there, providing it a really airy area, within the soil to develop roots. That's going to help them out a lot. They do want the water, they want a lot of water when you do water them, but you do want it to drain out pretty profusely, because it doesn't want to sit in the water like some other plants, like like ferns or calathea, things like that. So let it get that 50% of inorganic material, 50% organic material. So it holds on to a little bit, but not too much. But that's going to do it for the Pilea Peperomioides. If you have any questions about this beautiful plant, let me know in the comment section, or you can message me right here on Tanner the Planter.